Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Going over tomorrow's MLB early main slate for day on DraftKings. Before we continue though, if you could leave a like, subscribe to the channel, I really appreciate that. I also made a new Twitter handle, not an account, just a Twitter handle. It's at ChrisPennell16, so I think that's easier to look up and find me on there. So if you want access to this cheat sheet and the pitching model and all that, just follow me on Twitter, like I said, and then shoot me a DM and I'll send it right on over to you. So I'm going over the early slate. I have my cheat sheet ready for that, and then I'm going to be doing a late slate video with the plate IQ numbers because like I said, I can't make up two models for the day because it's just too time consuming, especially on a Saturday because I have to do NASCAR as well. So I'd have to do 3 videos on Saturday. So busy day for me, but I'm going to go over the early slate. I do think it's a pretty fun slate as well. So, and just so you know, I'm making this at 1 a.m. in the morning, and there's a couple pitching situations that they're not sure who's going to be pitching, so I'm going with what I have information as of right now. Alright, so let's get into the cheat sheet. So my favorite pitcher is going to be Cal Gibson, just from a price point of view. He's the #1 pitcher projected in my model, going up against the Detroit Tigers. And I do think it's it's a very solid matchup for him, and he's been absolutely excellent this year. I shouldn't say excellent, but he's been very good. So I definitely like him a lot, and I do think like I said, Detroit struggles with righties, and he's been solid this year, and he should be in line for the win. With Soto is projected to pitch for the Tigers. I'm seeing a couple places have different, but I'm seeing a couple places say Soto, so I'm going to roll with Soto, and let's just pretend Soto's pitching because I think he is. That's from what I've seen so far. So, and he's really bad, so I think the Twins are going to put up some runs, and I think Gibson should be able to get the easy win here. As it's been pretty much this whole year with him. I think he's always been going to be in line for an easy win with the Twins offense. And then Julio Teheran, 9,000. I know the Marlins have been putting up runs, but it's still a good matchup here for Teheran in this ballpark. I know a couple of lefties might give him some trouble, like Granderson, Neil Walker, and can't remember anymore off the top of my head. But other than that, I do think it's a pretty good matchup for him. I think earlier in the year he played against somebody got about 18 points, so that's it's decent. For 9K, I think it's a pretty decent spot for him. I could see those two being popular, just pairing those together. And then Lucas Giolito, if you want to spend up, it's 11,200. So he's been amazing lately. I know he shut out the Astros. I know he went the full game. And the Royals aren't too intimidating of a lineup. And the only thing in question here is this price. It's tough to pay that much for Lucas Giolito because I know last year we were thinking of him as more of a gas can, but now he's turning into some elite pitcher. I mean, we have to trust the numbers though. He's improved a lot, and he's racking up the strikeouts. So if you can afford him, it's I have no problem with it. Although I think I prefer going with the first 2 guys, but I mean, like I said, if you can afford it, I don't mind it at all. And then a catcher, we have Mitch Garver. If you're spending up 5,000, if you can afford him, so great. Obviously, it's a great play, but righty versus Soto. But if not, we have some put options below, and I level the Twins versus Soto and the Tigers bullpen. And just Astudillo, just another guy who's eligible at catcher, 3,400, just another righty versus Soto. And then if we're punting catcher, which I would assume a lot of us are going to be doing, because I hate spending up a catcher when you got, unless it's like Gary Sanchez in a really good spot, which he is today. I should say Gary Sanchez is in a good spot. I just think I don't want to pay 5,800 for him. So I don't mind Danny Jensen and Jeff Mathis, but I do prefer Jansen. Jansen. Or is it Jensen? I forget. I don't know. It doesn't matter, though. They're both minimum price, so don't mind them at all. And then at first base, we have CJ Cron, 4,400. This is going to be a core play for me today, facing worst pitcher on the slate, and possibly one of the worst pitchers in baseball. And he's a lefty, and he has over 400 ISO versus lefties so far. And the Detroit bullpen is pretty much the worst in the league, so even when he gets out of the game, they should be able to feast on bad pitching as well, because I assume they're going to be should have a strong lead, and I can't imagine they're going to bring in some of their better bullpen arms, so I think they're just going to feast today. And then Yuli Gurriel, 3,600. So Cashner's been much worse versus righties this year. Over the course of his career, it's been the lefties that are getting him damage, but so far this year it's the righties. So Gurriel usually bats 4th, and he's pretty cheap, and it's a bad bullpen for the O's as well, so I think he's in a good spot. And then Joey Votto, 3,600. He homered yesterday, and Pivetta has been pretty awful to both sides of the plate this year, giving up tons of power, and I do prefer the lefties versus him, so I don't mind Joey Votto. And then at second base, Derek Dietrich, 5,000. He's very pricey, but just love his power versus righties. He has 17 homers on the year. Pavetta's been pretty awful to both sides of the plate, like I just said. I'm not going to repeat myself because I just copy and pasted that note. And then Cesar Hernandez, 3,700. He should be leading off again versus a righty in Roark, who struggles with lefties. He's got some pretty dramatic splits so far this year. He's been pretty decent versus righties, but when it comes to the lefties, he struggles. And then Mike Moustakas, if you can afford him, 5,200. Super expensive, but I love the Brewers lefties here if you can afford them. And then third base, Matt Chapman, 5,100. It's going to be hot in Texas, and he's smashed lefties this so far this season. I believe he has over 300 ISO versus them. And then Travis Shaw, 2,400. He's been great since he's been called up, and his price actually dropped, so I have a ton of interest here versus righty. He's been good. I played him, what did he get, 13 points tonight, and then he had 10 points the other night, so I mean, at that price point, he's just smashing value. And then Yuli Gurriel, we already talked about. And then Marcus Semien, he double dogged today, 4,200. And he didn't even have that much ownership, which was surprising. But he hits lefties pretty well, and it's in Texas. It's going to be like 90 degrees there, so it's going to be great hitting conditions, and it's already a great ballpark anyway. And yeah. And then Didi Gregorius, 4,800. He's back in the lineup, and he's a guy I love using in DFS. Although he is pretty pricey, but just love the Yankee stack versus Putko. I know I don't have a lot of Yankees listed just because of their price, but you know, Sanchez is in play, Luke Voigt, Gleyber Torres if he's back in the lineup, DJ LeMahieu's fine. So even though they didn't make the cheat sheet, I still think they're fine plays. And then Elvis Andrus, 4,500. Price is coming down, which is nice, and he's in Texas, so I mean, there's really not much to it there. Then in the high-priced outfield, I didn't list any super expensive guys because I think the pitchers, I think we're going to be in the 9K and up range, so I don't want to list so many expensive guys because, you know, that's just not how the lineup builds are going to be for me personally. And I'm trying to show you guys what I'm going to be doing personally for tomorrow, so I know, I mean, obviously if you can afford him, Yelich is in play, but I just don't think we're going to be able to afford him. So Aaron Hicks, 4,700, he stands out. He's been very good versus righties, and Pleco is just not good, and I still like Hicks in the 4K range. So like I said, I love all the Yankees. Then Bryce Harper, 4,500. Just what I was talking about with Hernandez, Roark really struggles with lefties, and I know Harper sucked, but I still think he's at a fair price, and especially versus a righty, because he's still got some good power versus them. And then Michael Brantley, 4,600. So I did say that righties are the way to go versus Cashner this year, but Brantley's just too good versus right-handed pitching, and I'm biased versus Michael Brantley. So just being honest. And then the mid-range outfield, Nelson Cruz, 4,200. This is going to be a core play for me today versus Soto. I really hope it's Soto pitching, because if it is, it makes it really easy for me just to play Crone and Nelson Cruz. I saw another site saying Ramirez, he was pitching, but he's a lefty too, so I mean, it would still be fine with Crone and Cruz, but I really hope it's Soto because he's very, very bad. But yeah, Cruz versus lefties has always been a thing, and it's a dream matchup, plus the bullpen. I know Cruz smashed one off one of the bullpen arms tonight also. Then Chris Davis, 4,200. He's still too cheap for him in Texas, and going against a lefty who just got called up to the bigs. I forget what his name was. Top of my head. Starts with a P, I think. And then Stephen Piscotty, 4,300. Another righty with power versus a lefty in Texas. Not lefties. I mean, you might see another lefty, but that's not even close. It should be a Y. Sorry. Okay. And then in the value outfield, we have Jesse Winker, 3,700. So it's just, I copied the same notes. Just Pavetta's been pretty bad versus both sides of the plate, especially lefties. So. And Winker's pretty good versus righties, so don't mind that. And then Derek Fisher, 4,100, just as long as he's leading off. I know, like I said, Cashner's been worse versus righties, but willing to take a shot at somebody's, this whole Astros lineup. And I should say Alex Bregman's a good play too if you can afford him. He's just very expensive. And then Josh Reddick, same reasons as Fisher. Just, I mean, they're both not going to be leading off, but you know what I mean. And then Curtis Granderson, 3,400, just a lefty versus Teheran, and he probably would be leading off, I would imagine. So I think that's a nice price point for him. Then if we go to some of the core plays, the weather looks fine to me. I know there was supposed to be like some rain in Miami, but they got the roof, so it doesn't even matter. And then, so the core plays are going to be Cal Gibson, 9,700. And then CJ Crone at 4,400. Travis Shaw at 2,500. Or was it 2,400? I think it was 2,400, my bad. Let's take a look, just I don't want to mess up. Oops. Yeah, I don't know. It's either 2,400 or 2,500. not a big deal. And then Nelson Cruz at 4,200. Then the top stacks for me are going to be the Athletics, the Yankees, the Twins, and I will say, even though there should be a lefty on the mound, Max Kepler and Rosario, I think you could stack them in too. Their ownership is going to be lower, but once you get to the bullpen, they're going to bring in some righties anyway, and those guys smash righties, and you're not going to miss out on that. So I do think that's a sneaky way to go about it. Because I do think Corona and Cruz would be heavily owned, but those guys should go overlooked, and they are pretty pricey. But then the Astros going against Cashner and that bullpen, and the Brewers, specifically the lefties, and then the Rangers. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for the video. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. NASCAR is going to be out tomorrow. I think qualifying is at 12. It's either 12 or 2. I can't remember. But I do have everything else updated, so I'm just waiting on qualifying, and then I'll get that video out as soon as I can. And if you're playing UFC, I'd recommend checking out the UFC video. And I wish you guys the best of luck tomorrow. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that. And see you.